An epidemic of unknown origin strikes mankind, killing all adults and rendering the youngsters at the mercy of the vampire kind. 4 years later, Yoshiro Hyakuya is fed up with his new life at his family orphanage in the vampire capital named Sanguinum. But his best friend Michaela Hyakuya begs to differ. Yoshiro looks back to when he first met Michaela at the family orphanage. Yuichiro becomes concerned when Michaela doesn't show up for dinner. However, Michaela arrives obtaining a gun and a map in order to bring the orphans out of Sanguinum. When Yuichiro, Michaela, and the orphans make a daring attempt at escape, they are trapped by Farid Bathory, who kills the orphans one by one. Farid mortally wounded Michaela in the midst of his charge, but Yuichiro manages to shoot Farid. Yuichiro leaves Michaela and the rest of his family behind and escapes outside of Sanguinum. 4 years later, after he escapes outside of Sanguinum, Yuichiro joins the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, but is eager to become a member of the Moon Demon Company, their special vampire hunting force led by Guren Ichinose. However, due to his reckless behavior, Yuichiro is advised by Shinoa Hiragi to make a friend in his school before the promotion can be granted. Yuichiro befriends Yoichi Sawaitome, who is being bullied by 3 students named Satoshi Yamanaka, Shishiro, and Yuji. Yoichi intends to avenge his sister, Tomoe Samatome, who was killed by a vampire, joining the Moon Demon Company. Later, a school evacuation is initiated when a female vampire attacks the school. Going against orders, Yuichiro faces the female vampire alone, that is, until Guren arrives to kill her instead. Since Yuichiro fulfilled his requirement nonetheless, Shinoe enlists both Yuichiro and Yoichi into recruit training. Shinoa, who is aware that Yuichiro desires more power, spars with him using her cursed gear named Shikama Doji, a pen that transforms into a scythe, in order to intimidate him. Later, Yuichiro, Shinoa, and Yoichi learn from Yamanaka and Shishido that Yuji went underground into a forbidden chamber and never came back out. Shinoa says Yuji has been possessed by a demon which resides there. As Yuichiro, Shinoa, and Yoichi enter the forbidden chamber, Yuichiro confirms Yuji not only hopes to save him, but also make a contract with the demon and claim the axe as his cursed gear. After managing to take the axe from Yuji, Yuichiro has a hallucination of Michaela, but breaks free before being tricked into desiring vengeance. After Yuichiro wakes up, Shinoa congratulates him on his progress so far. Michaela is shown to still be alive shortly after the deaths of the other orphans, thanks to Kroll Tepes, who decided to preserve his life by having him ingest her blood. Shinoa brings Yuichiro and Yoichi to their new classroom for recruit training taught by Sayuri Hanayori, where Yuichiro immediately develops rivalry against Shiho Kimizuki. A week before an aptitude test, Guren warns Shiho not to use his desire to find a cure for a virus that has infected his dying sister, Mirai Kimizuki, simply in order to acquire the strongest cursed gear, since its overwhelming power will consume him. On the day of the aptitude test, Yuichiro and Shiho are chained together as partners to battle against giant demon puppets. The test is interrupted when Shiho is informed to see Mirai at the hospital ward. Although their scores will be highly affected due to their leave of absence, Shiho thanks Yuichiro for convincing him to see Mirai. Cruel assembles her vampires together and declares war on the Japanese Imperial Demon Army due to their rise to power. Meanwhile, Guren encounters Yuichiro and approves his request of arranging a time for selecting a cursed gear. Later, Yuichiro ends up being the only student who failed the spellcraft test in his class. When Guren arrives in the classroom, he uses his cursed gear named Machiru no Yo, which takes the form of a katana, to determine which of the students can withstand its demonic energy. Yuichiro, Yoichi, and Shiho are the only students able to do so. Guren takes the 3 of them underground to a chamber to choose a cursed gear for themselves, despite knowing the risks. Yuichiro, Yoichi, and Shiho each confront their respective demons, in the embodiment of their loved ones, in order to gain control of their desires. Both Yuichiro and Shiho manage to obtain their own cursed gears, but Yoichi ends up possessed by his weapon and begins to attack the 2. Yoichiro and Shiho fend off the attacks, but they hesitate to harm Yoichi, knowing that his soul is still alive. When Yuichiro puts down his cursed gear to leave himself out in the open, Yoichi eventually snaps out of it and prevents himself from killing Yuichiro, thanks to Guren's words of encouragement. As the 3 students all pass the final test to be official members of the Moon Demon Company, Guren tells them to focus on the future to protect others, rather than the past to seek revenge on others. Yuichiro, Shinoa, Yoichi, and Shiho are introduced to Mitsuba Sangu as the 5th member of the Shinoa squad. Guren dispatches them on their first mission together to Harajuku. On their way there, a four horsemen of John is spotted attacking a little girl in distress. Despite Mitsuba's warning that he is being lured into a trap, Yuichiro ignores orders and rushes to rescue the little girl, while Shinoa, Yoichi, Shiho, and Mitsuba are soon ambushed by three vampires. The four manage to destroy the horsemen, which forces the three vampires to fall back. Although Mitsuba scolds Yuichiro for putting the whole squad in danger, she's later reminded by Shinoa of when she cost the life of a member of her former squad during a mission. The little girl informs the Shinoa squad that the lair of the vampires is located at Omotesando Station. Shinoa squad enters Omotesando Station, populated by many orphan children. As they travel further, Yuichiro defeats two vampires by himself. The five of them are equally ambushed by 8 vampires, which is more than what the little girl reported. Shinoa squad manages to exterminate the vampires and free the orphan children. In the aftermath, the little girl apologizes to Yuichiro for her deceit. Mitsuba struggles to thank Yuichiro for saving her life, but ends up withdrawing the statement. After Shiho starts a truck by method of hot wiring, Shinoa squad proceeds to Shinjuku, where they encounter a vampire noble, Crowley Usford, who easily overpowers them despite being significantly outnumbered. However, vampire nobles Chess Bell and Horn Scold arrive and take Crowley back to the front lines. Despite now knowing what they'll be up against, Shinoa squad prepares to head toward Shinjuku. Shinoa squad arrives at Shinjuku to assist Nagai, corporal of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, in repelling the offensives of the vampires who attack in helicopters equipped with missiles. Meanwhile, Gurren spots Michaela and Farid from a distance. Farid reminds Michaela that he should embrace his new role as a vampire and drink human blood. A flashback is shown when Michaela refused to drink Cruel's blood, but eventually gave in to his craving. While Nagai drives Shinoa squad towards the western defensive barrier, Shinoa gives Yorichiro, Yoichi, and Shiho each a pack of curse stimulant pills to be used sparingly, which will temporarily enhance their power. Suddenly, a helicopter attacks them, which causes them to fall into an underground subway as a result of the blast. The debris separates Yoichiro, Shinoa, and Nagai from Yoichi, Shiho, and Mitsuba. Yoichiro and Shinoa carry a wounded Nagai to the temporary shelter to be treated by the military paramedics before planning to meet up with Yoichi, Shiho, and Mitsuba at the western defensive barrier. While the Moon Demon Company take down much of the vampiric army, Farid allows Michaela to fight Gurren. After being informed that Yoichi, Shiho, and Mitsuba are being attacked by a group of vampires at the Central Park, Yoichiro and Shinoa rush over there to assist them before they make their way to the western defensive barrier. Although Shigure Yukimi and Nori Togoshi throw Michaela off guard with their attacks, Farid prevents Gurren from making the final blow and pushes him away. Michaela stabs Gurren before giving him the chance to fight back. As Shinoa squad arrives, Yuichiro approaches Michaela from behind and stabs him through the chest, in which both are surprised to see each other is still alive. After seeing that Yuichiro hesitated to kill Michaela after recognizing his face, Farid agreed to help Michaela escape with him. Crowley, Chess, and Horn, along with Lucas Welt and Ren Sim, arrive to take on the Moon Demon Company, while Farid lures Yuichiro and Gurren away from the rest. While Farid restrains Gurren, Michaela attempts to convince Yuichiro to side with him, but Yuichiro declines after noticing how much Michaela has changed. Yuichiro loses control of the dreadful power within him upon seeing his friend suffering at the hands of the vampires. Crowley evades Yuichiro due to being unable to withstand his attacks. Michaela shields Shinoa from Yuichiro, but Shinoa embraces Yuichiro as a last resort, which reverts him back to normal before falling unconscious. The vampires soon find themselves surrounded by the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Shinoa is granted access to see Gurren in the underground laboratory. She confronts him about the cursed stimulant pills given to Yuichiro, who has been in a comatose state for 5 days. Gurren advises Shinoa to wait by Yuichiro at his hospital bed if she truly does care for him. Meanwhile, Michaela contemplates his identity as a vampire and a human, while Lucas and Renee notice his past association with Yuichiro. On the 7th day, Yuichiro finally wakes up and Yoichi notifies the others. Shinoa tells Yuichiro that Michaela retreated with the vampire nobles in response to an attack led by Kurito Hiragi and Shinya Hiragi of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Once the rest of his friends gather in the hospital room, Yuichiro thanks them and apologizes for sleeping for so long. Both Yuichiro and Michaela make a silent vow that they will save each other. Gurren writes a letter to an unknown recipient, and Farid gives research data to an unseen client. Shinoa Hirage spars with Gurren Ichinose, reminded that he killed her demon-possessed sister, Mahiro Hiragi, in order to claim his cursed gear. Shinoa finds Yurichiro Hyakuya at the library, where she explains that Michaela Hyakuya was chosen by the vampire nobles to become a vampire. Gurren declares himself as a superior rather than a friend to Yuichiro. And Mitsuba Sangu receives a promotion despite seeing herself as a failure to Yuichiro. Kurito Hiragi summons Yuichiro to test his loyalty to the Japanese Imperial Demon Army due to the suspicion of being a spy. Kurito reveals Yoichi Saotome and Shiho Kimizuki being held captive and interrogates Yuichiro, mentioning that his former family orphanage was being used for spellcraft experimentation by his vampire sect. After being released, Yuichiro asks Gurren to help him reclaim Michaela from the vampire nobles. In Sanguinem, Farid Bathory halts a bloodthirsty Michaela. When a boy named Dai offers his blood, Michaela refuses despite being tempted by Farid. Michaela is then invited by Farid to the upcoming Progenitor Council meeting. After Yoichi successfully eliminates 5 Four Horsemen of John with one attack, Yuichiro confronts his cursed gear named Asuramaru, managing to break free from Asuramaru's illusion of Michaela and asking Asuramaru to lend him strength to save Michaela as a gesture of friendship. Meanwhile, at the Progenitor Council meeting, Farid has Michaela show footage of Yuichiro briefly going berserk during the battle at Shinjuku, which enrages Cruel Tepes. But Farid reminds her that she cannot kill him since he has secret information about her. Shiho battles his cursed gear named Kiseki-O, but he struggles to break free from Kiseki-O's illusion of his sister, Mirai Kimizuki. Shiho breaks free by remembering how Yuichiro strives to protect Michaela like family despite not being related by blood. While Yuichiro and Shiho show off their new fighting techniques, Shinoa and Mitsuba later learn that the files containing data on Yuichiro, Yoichi, and Shiho have been erased. A letter is sent via messenger pigeon from Dai to Kurito through Aoi Sangu. Shinoa Squad meets during breakfast, in which they discuss whether or not to follow Gurren. Elsewhere, Kurito entrusts Gurren to send Shinoa Squad and the Moon Demon Company to wipe out 10 vampire nobles in Nagoya before the vampires bring their main army to Tokyo in 1 month. Shinoa Squad eventually decides to follow Gurren and make it their policy to protect their family. Meanwhile, Michaela satisfies his craving for blood by forcing himself onto Cruel. Once he calms down, she reveals her plans to him and gives him a secret task. Gurren, who is briefed by Shinoa about the progress of Yu and Shiho in their training, tells Shinoa to make preparations for the mission. While Michaela meets with the other vampires to head towards Nagoya, Kurito orders potentially lethal experimentation on an unknown female test subject in the underground laboratory. Shinoa Squad travels to the Abina rest stop, dodging several Four Horsemen of John along the way. Because of this, Shinoa Squad arrives late when Gurren gives his speech, in which Yuichiro takes full blame for their tardiness. As punishment, Shinoa Squad is lured into a fight against Gurren, Mito, Jujo, and Shinya Hiragi. Despite carefully planning out a strategy, Shinoa Squad is eventually yet handily defeated. When Makoto Narumi comments that Shinoa Squad lacks teamwork and discipline, Gurren assigns Shinoa Squad to work with Narumi Squad for the next mission as a result. Elsewhere, as Michaela and Lucas Welt collect stray human children as gifts for the vampire nobles in Nagoya, Michaela realizes that his thirst for human blood has increased even more. Michaela withholds himself from attacking a girl for her blood, which Lucas finds strange. Narumi tells Yuichiro, Shinoa, Shiho, and Mitsuba that their next mission is to exterminate vampire noble Lukal Wesker, while Shinya calms Yoichi down as they wait to snipe Lukal from a distance. While Lukal and his servant Esther Lee debate whether or not to obey Cruel's orders, Lukal sacrifices Esther to act as a shield from Yoichi and Shinya's attacks. As Shinoa Squad and Narumi Squad ambush Lukal, he's able to fend off some of the attacks, that is until they alter their information and manage to severely injure him. When Yayoi Endo attempts to finish Lukal off, he takes her sword and commits suicide, refusing to die by a human. Meanwhile, Gurren Squad defeats vampire noble Mel Stefano. A dying Ada Kusunoki reports to Gurren, revealing that 45 soldiers at Nagoya City Hall were defeated, in which 19 of them were killed and the remainder are held hostage. Kusunoki passes away shortly afterwards. At Nagoya City Hall, Crowley Usford, Chess Bell, and Horn Scold discuss their next plan of action, suspecting that a traitorous vampire noble provided information to the humans. All of Shinoa Squad, Narumi Squad, and Gurren Squad regroup, but Aiko Aihara lost 8 out of 14 members in her squad during her assigned mission. Gurren leaves Aiko behind to take the 3 squads to rescue hostages at Nagoya City Hall. Michaela, Lucas, and Renee Sim suddenly arrive in 2 helicopters, but Aiko orders her squad to commit suicide by swallowing their poisonous pills. Michaela prevents Aiko from doing the same, leaving her as the only survivor. Aiko decides to trust Michaela, discreetly telling him that Yuichiro is headed towards Nagoya City Hall, while tricking Lucas and Renee into going to Higashiyama Park. After Michaela kills Aiko upon her request, he sets off to Nagoya City Hall, planning on intercepting Yuichiro. The Moon Demon Company tries to figure out a way to handle the hostage situation and come up with a plan to attack Crowley, Chess, and Horn. Guren's squad is tasked to distract the vampires, while Shinoa squad and Narumi squad must focus on rescuing the hostages. Guren and Shinya jump straight to the office on the top floor to fight Crowley, but they are no match against him. Shinoa squad launches their plan to assist Guren and Shinya when entering the building. When Guren and Shinya try to run away from Crowley in the hallway, they both wind up wounded and defenseless. However, Yu suddenly appears from under the floor to strike Crowley, yet Crowley immediately makes a counterattack. Chess and Horn defend Crowley when all of Shinoa squad attempts to attack. Shinoa squad retreats with Shinya, having to leave Guren behind. Guren's squad tries to rescue Guren from Crowley, Chess, and Horn, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Seshiro Hiragi attempts to arrest Kurito for having a secret plan of his own, but Aoi eliminates 2 soldiers under Seshiro in retaliation. Yu disagrees with the orders to abandon Guren and carry on with the mission, looking back on how Guren treated him like family since he was younger. In defiance, Yu takes 2 extra curse stimulant pills, which causes blood to gush out of his mouth and eyes before he collapses. Kurito tells Aoi to inform the scientists to increase the dosage into the test subject since time is running out. Yuichiro remains alive due to the power of angels in the form of a golden trumpet, but Asuramaru lures Yu away from the golden trumpet and gives him enough power to awaken. After reviving in front of his squad, Yu charges off and faces Crowley inside the auditorium in hopes of saving Guren. However, Yu's lust for more power encourages Asuramaru to possess him. Shiho arrives and uses Kisekio to stop Yuichiro, rendering him unconscious. As the Moon Demon Company retreats, Michaela arrives in the scene, charging past the Moon Demon Company to rescue Yu. Since they see Yuichiro as family just like Mika does, Shinoa squad distracts the Moon Demon Company to allow Michaela to flee with Yu in tow. The vampires then show up and kill Yayoi and Taro Kageyama, before the rest of the Moon Demon Company escape to Nagoya Airport. Michaela brings Yuichiro to an abandoned store and struggles with his thirst for blood. Yu wakes up and recognizes Mika trying to hold back his craving. Then Yu tries to convince Mika to drink his blood to keep on living with him, even if that means to survive as a complete vampire. Even though Mika still believes that the humans are brainwashing Yuichiro, he eventually agrees to trust Yu as well as Shinoa squad. While Yu and Mika drive to Nagoya Airport to rendezvous with the remnants of the Moon Demon Company, Mika explains that both the vampires in the past and the humans in the present have been performing experiments. Nonetheless, Yu ensures Mika to trust Shinoa squad just like family. The test subject that Kurito is conducting experiments on is revealed to be Mirai. At Nagoya Airport, a letter is sent to the Moon Demon Company, informing them to stand by. Narumi eventually believes that the Moon Demon Company should abandon the mission and rescue Guren instead, to which Shinya agrees. Crowley learns from Farid that Guren is a Namanari, a human halfway into becoming a demon, in which Mahiru can fully possess his body. Cruel is told by Guren that the Moon Demon Company is currently at Nagoya Airport. As the helicopters finally arrive at Nagoya Airport, Kurito steps out and tells the Moon Demon Company to relax their weapons, but he soon skewers Shukasu Iwasaki and Rika Inoue with chained spears protruding from a large canister. Yuichiro and Michaela arrive in time to assist in fending off the chained spears. The chaos climaxes into a 3-way battle among the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, the Moon Demon Company, and the vampires. When Yu encounters Guren, the latter suddenly swings his sword at the former. Michaela blocks the strike made by Guren. After many soldiers from all 3 sides are sacrificed by the chained spears, Mirai emerges from inside the container as an angel. Mirai summons Abaddon, the Angel of Destruction of the 5th Trumpet, and Kurito succeeds in controlling it. As the chaos continues, Abaddon spits out a horde of the 4 Horsemen of John to attack everyone. When Mika becomes badly injured, Yu stabs himself in the chest to retrieve the golden trumpet within his subconsciousness. Yu awakens as the King of Salt of the 2nd Trumpet, using his newly found power to turn Abaddon into salt before Asuramaru knocks Yu unconscious. Mika flees when Cruel is intervened by Crowley and killed by Farid, who declares Cruel to be a traitor and assumes command of the vampires. While Shinoa squad, Mika and Narumi escape with Yu in tow, Shinoa officially resigns her squad from the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. 4 months later, the Japanese Imperial Demon Army takes over Sanguinem, while Farid, Crowley, Chess, Horn, Lucas, and Renee meet with vampire noble Lest Kar. Yu, Mika, Shinoa, Yoichi, Shiho, Mitsuba, and Narumi set out to rescue Mirai and Guren in Sanguinem. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.